So Daniel, at Pyxera, you work with a lot of businesses who are supplying skilled volunteers as part of their corporate volunteer programs. So when you are looking at measuring impact, how do you define impact? Are you looking at the business goals, development, social goals, or the impact personally on the volunteer? And then how do you use data and results to convince companies to provide volunteers, and what kind of impact are they looking for?
Sure. These programs are, we see them as win-wins across the board. So it's really affecting the people that participate, the organizations that are sending them, and also to the organizations that are receiving the volunteers on the ground. So when you look at the type of impact that these programs are having, you can measure it across all those different aspects. My organization, Pyxera Global, we do a state of the practice benchmark survey every year with the organizations that we do this type of work with. And there's a lot of interesting data in there, in terms of employee retention, employee loyalty, dedication to the organization that's sending us. So there's a lot of impact that the organization has sending their employees out. Also, too, on that personal level, I think a lot of the descriptions that folks say when they do these programs is that is a once-in-a-lifetime, life-changing experience. So, in the host organizations, too, a lot of this work that they receive, they wouldn't be able to afford these types of consulting services on the open market. It just would be out of their price range. So it really affects, their ability to conduct their day-to-day work and their ability to impact and affect the people that they're trying to work with on the ground. There's still not a standard definition of impact in terms of global pro bono programs. It is something that we're still trying to develop and make more concrete. But the anecdotal evidence that we have, the qualitative results that we have from the surveys that we've put out and the surveys that the sending organizations have put out have shown a really positive impact across all these different aspects of global pro bono volunteering.
Aaron, I'd like to ask you a similar question. What does impact mean to Cuso International? Where do you see volunteers and making the biggest impact? That I'm achieving development goals, or is it a real value for the volunteer and having that experience of a lifetime, as Daniel mentioned, or both? What does it mean to you?
I would say that there's definitely both. As volunteer sending organizations have developed really over the past, quite frankly, since the 1960s, there has been a shift between the experience of the volunteer and the impact or results. I mean, within the development community, there are numerous ways of looking at monitoring and evaluation. One of them is results-based management. The results-based management approach looks at the idea of specific development outcomes, i.e. change at the beneficiary level. And so within our monitoring and evaluation system, we're looking at the way in which we can connect what volunteers are doing. We understand this is a meaningful thing for the volunteers. They become involved in international volunteering, whether they're some of them diaspora volunteers, or we have South-South volunteers or North-South volunteers. The people that are involved are very passionate, and they do report that they get a significant amount out of it themselves. But we also are able to demonstrate that their contribution, as Daniel was saying, they're able to contribute certain skills and transfer knowledge at that beneficiary outcome level.
So both of your organizations look for and use skilled volunteers that are providing a very specific and needed skill set. And how important do you think this is to achieving impact? And have you been able to measure the difference in impact between using these skilled volunteers that match up with needs on the ground versus maybe a more novice volunteer, someone who's generally looking to help but doesn't have a specific expertise?
We as an organization haven't focused on any of the traditional types of volunteer work that is outside of kind of a skills-based component. But I think when you look at how these types of programs can affect impact, given the constraints of these short-term assignments, projects usually tend to be constructed with those constraints in mind. So when you look at 1 month on the ground, some of the things that the team can do, for example, are developing or refining a long-term strategy for the organization that they're working with, or it's building out a communications plan if an organization, doesn't have the skills or the capacity to put together, a strategic roadmap for how they're going to communicate about the work that they're doing or reaching out to the local populations that they're trying to affect. Those are the types of programs that I think are the ones that add a lot of value for both parties involved, because not only being able to leverage the skills you have developed as a professional, but also addressing a critical need that the organization has. And as I mentioned before, as programs become longer term in scope, with multiple teams coming, I think that's when you'll be able to start, really assessing, the impact and being able to measure that impact, as opposed to being able to just see, that one project was done, completed, and then now it's, it's executable without any further follow-up. I think that's kind of the next step, is to see how our multiple short-term engagements linked together effective in the field.